Oh, James Spader, what did you do? You did another space movie, didn't you? Tonight, we're going to check out Supernova. It's not a bad film, really. It's got its quirks, it's got its charms, it's got a lot of problems, but it's also a lot of fun, too. Set in the year 2101, this is the Nightingale 229 emergency medical rescue vessel. I will go through the stats of the film because obviously you didn't hear me. So, what Supernova, directed by Walter Hill, he disowned the movie, so he was credited as Thomas Lee. Also, uncredited directors on this movie include Jack Shoulder, who was originally the first choice, but he turned it down and walked away. He also took Vincent D'Onofrio with him. So anyway, they brought Spader on board, and Spader said, why don't you get Walter Hill? And then him and Walter Hill ended up falling out during the production of this film. Eventually, Francis Ford Coppola went in and re-edited everything and made a complete hash-up of it, to be fair, because the pacing is all over the place. This film came out January 14th of 2000. Supernova was panned by critics who ripped the story, characters, pacing, and the effects to shreds. It was a total box office bomb, only grossing 14.8 million over its budget between 60 and 90 million, with an estimated loss of 83 million. IMDb gives it a 4.7 out of 10, which I think is fair. Rigged Tomatoes, however, critics gave it 11% and moviegoers gave it 18%. It's one of those, isn't it? Franco says he's never heard of it. A lot of people are saying the exact same thing. Now, if I make myself little, I'm hoping, there we go. It's working now. Let's go through these slides. Anybody recognize this guy? It's Wilson Cruz, the gay doctor from Star Trek Discovery, when he was a lot younger, obviously. He plays Benjamin Sotomayor. He's the ship's navigator and AI engineer. If everybody wants to tell everybody who bailed out that I'm back on the air now, that might go a long way. This is Robin Tunney, locking lips with Lou Diamond Phillips. Lou Diamond Phillips kind of went through a bit of a famine period during his career, and he was pretty much taking anything that came his way. But, ironically, he turned this role down a total of 3 times. His character's name's Jerzy Penalosa. Might be the fact that's what put him off. Robin Tunney plays Danica Lund. She's a nurse, obviously. I'm not quite sure what Lou Diamond Phillips' role is in this, apart from screwing like a rabbit. But hey-ho, these things happen. On the left there is Captain A.J. Marley, played by veteran B-movie actor Robert Forster. You might remember him as Captain Dan Holland from The Black Hole. He's playing space table tennis with James Spader, who doesn't venture into science fiction very often, and it's probably a good thing. I think his presence is too much for this movie, you know? I think he's a bit too cool for school for this film. He's too laid back, too chill. They wanted somebody, how can I put it, more animate. Spader's great in this film, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's not his role. So anyway, AJ Marley, he's getting a PhD, but he's doing it on Tom and Jerry, as you do in space. This is Spader, Nick Van Zandt, former military pilot who got addicted to a drug called Hazen. So he's in rehabilitation, and as a part of his punishment, he's got to do a couple of tours on a medical ship. Spader plays a 32-year-old character here, right? Spader was actually 40 when they made this film. And I've got to admit, for a 40-year-old, he looks in remarkable shape. He must have worked out really stringently for this role. There's Dr. Kayla Evers, Angela Bassett. She had a bit of a meltdown on set. I'll tell you a little bit more about that a little bit later on as well. Now, because he's a former junkie, she gives him some meds to tempt him, right? Bit of like an honesty trap. In the meantime, Wilson Cruz, Benjamin, is playing cards with Spader, and they have this sort of like fancy a bum moment. You know, there's a point here where I think Spader's like, yeah, I'm going to bum this guy. I'm going to bum him into a black hole. Careful, Spader. His black hole, you don't know where it's been, do you? So in the meantime, Kayla, she does not like Nick. So Nick has a bit of a chat with her. Like I say, Spader's just too darn cool for this. You know, Eraserhead says Spader never misses. He doesn't. I mean, he's spot on, you know? And like I say, he's too powerful for this movie. I have to admit. Eraserhead says Robert Forster is incredible. He is fantastic. Apart from was it Alligator, or is that Henry Silver, or was Henry Silver in that as well? I'm not quite sure. Ref says, I remember Forster better in Jackie Brown. Hello to everybody in the chat, by the way. First up, best dressed tonight was our Melv. Franco, hello to you. Paul Dickinson, Z3PO, thank you for texting me, mate. Hey dear. I thought it was a bit quiet. Cartoon Man as well. Who else is loitering about? We'll see. We'll see who comes about. But yeah, like I say, Spader's just too much for this movie. In the meantime, he gives her these tablets back because they're like happy tablets. So he's like, yeah, I don't need these. And she's like, I don't trust you. I don't like druggies or people with deep addictive problems. And this ship it's a bit weird. It's kind of like something from Alien and Dune and a Star Wars Rebel ship, you know? It's kind of got that vibe to it. In the original project, Giger was kind of attached to this. And then when Walter Hill came on board, he wanted to remove himself from the Alien, you know, because by this point, Walter Hill had been the producer of 3 Alien movies. He runs Brandywine. So anyway, they get a bit of a beep, an emergency call out in the middle of nowhere. So obviously it's a medical ship. They've got to respond to it. And Forster, goes into the engine room, and it's like in this weird tunnel thing. Whether that, it looks like it's a bit of a nod to the black hole. You know, in the bit where they're all like weightless and they're floating up to the decks. It's kind of a bit like that. So anyway, normally any medical issues have to go to home base, and then these guys get called out to go and do a job, right? But this says direct call, and it's on a mining moon of Pole something or another. I didn't quite have enough space to get it all in. But they decide that to do this rescue in their lifetime, they've got to do a D jump, right? Now, in this movie, they're faster than, well, it's not quite faster than light, to be fair. D jump is short for dimensional jump, which is a dangerous near light speed travel method used by the Nightingale. It requires crews to use specialized coffin-like dimensional stabilization units to survive. And it's a bit of a critical plot device for later. You know, they've got to travel 3,432 light years, right? But these D jumps are exceedingly dangerous. Now, if you're not inside a stabilization unit, it's basically Seth Brundle soup, right? So Forster makes the call, says, right, you know, we'll answer this call. And it's to a rogue moon. Now, this rogue moon might have drifted too close to a blue supergiant, but we find out. And then she hears a name, this Carl Larson. And she's like, Kayla's like, oh, she used to go out with him and it was abusive. So there's a bit of a backstory building up already there. So everything's plotted. Now, interesting bit here. Forster's character, AJ Marley, says, you know, D jump's really good for you if you're boning a lot. And these two are quite cock-a-hoop about it, no pun intended. So Captain Marley says to Kayla, says, look, I'm going to swap pods with you. You take mine, and I'll use yours. So he knows something. So he knows something's amiss. So they all have to strip off and go in these dimensional stabilization units. Now, there was a point in the film, in the production, where Angela Bassett had a monstrous meltdown. She would not appear naked. All the rest of them, they got the kit off in front of the crew and everybody. They didn't care, you know? So anyway, they all go into these stabilization units. And Marley's, not looking good. And he kind of knows. He knew it was a risk, but it was one he was willing to take. Because a doctor on board this medical ship is more important than the captain. So they do this D jump anyway. And it's kind of like it's stretching and pulling them and making them look all funky and stuff like that. And they have visions of the future while they're in this dimensional jump. So Spader's like having flashes of what's going to happen, and so do the other crew. So we kind of get treated. Look, it's all squishing them and stuff like that. So it's basically like a transporter accident. But when they get out, Lou Diamond Phillips is checking himself. And then Benjamin, he's like pulling this face and he's like, gotcha. He's a bit of a practical joker. But then they notice something. The captain's pod. This is what happens to you if you're not completely shielded from this dimensional jump malarkey. Yeah. So he's basically fused with that unit. So it's not good because Van Zant's now ship's captain because he's not coming out of this, is he? You know. But as they come out of dimensional jump, they're in a high grav field. And then this piece of space debris hits the fuel tanks, right? So here's a plot point. Their fuel's being expended into space. They haven't got. Yeah, Rev says they're quite interested. That scene gave me flashbacks to the thing. Exactly. Yeah, there's some interesting bits in the chat. We'll catch up with the chat soon. But Marley says, you know, you're just going to have to kill me. So they open these shields up on the ship, and they're in the orbit of a blue giant. And it's got a white dwarf companion, which means this star is eventually going to go supernova. But there might be something in the plot that speeds things up a little bit. So Kayla uses a laser scalpel to kill the captain, as you do. Meanwhile, Van Zant's having to use docking thrusters to try and stabilize the ship from, Paul Dickinson says, horrible-looking ship. It is. It's terrible, isn't it? So Spader's character's doing his best to get them in some kind of safe orbit because they were heading for this moon. They're still trying to get Captain Marley out of this pod. There's always a pod, isn't it? So he manages to turn things around. Kayla, she does like a mercy killing, and he's like, splat. He's all over the floor. Doesn't look very good, doesn't it? And she just, they all like look down. She goes, clean it up, and she wanders off. Meanwhile, Nick's trying to save things. And he finds out that the captain's not going to be around any longer. Now he's the captain. But this ship does look kind of awful. It's like somebody kind of ripped off a lot of franchises. I'm seeing a bit of a B-Wing in there, a few elements from Battle Beyond the Stars, Babylon 5, loads of different designs in there. Meanwhile, Spader goes and does a bit of a peace offering with Kayla. He's got a brandy with a pear inside it, and she's like, but anyway, you know what's going to happen here. Spader could get Totty in any star system, whether there's Totty there or not. And he's going to do a charm thing. So, you know, bottle of brandy, charming her knickers off already. And there we go. Ta-da! First of many rum scenes in this. There we go. I've covered it up. I've been tasteful. You can't see James Spader's nasty crack. And if you've seen James Spader's nasty crack, there we go. Meanwhile, Benjamin, he's kind of having like an AI affair. And this computer's like, oh, you could play with me anytime. And I'm like thinking, no, not unless you've got a joystick, love. I think he's on to the bus. Meanwhile, Lou Diamond Phillips' character and his bit on the side, Miss Tunney, they're going to apply to have a kid. Application for reproduction agreement. No, thank you. I'm taking a firm pass. And you can tell deep down, she's like, I'm enjoying getting the practice in, but I don't think I want any kids. So Spader, because he's ex-military, well, Nick Van Zant, because he's ex-military, he's getting everybody like assured. He says, you know, I've been in worse situations than this. We'll get out. I've got out of those, and I'll get you out of this one. Meanwhile, from the surface of the moon, this shuttle pod's like firing up, and it's kind of out of control. And if they don't do something about it, it's going to crash into the ship. And I think the ship's already got enough problems going for them at the moment. So this thing docks, and this guy comes flying out, and oh crikey, I'll tell you who this is. Peter, it's on the tip of my tongue, Facinelli, I think that's his name, plays Carl Larson in this. So Tony takes a bit of a shine to him, and Kayla's like, hang on a minute, that's not Carl Larson. So, Spader has a bit of a chat and says, what's crack-a-lacking like? And she says it's just some random guy. Meanwhile, he's disappeared off the table. And Tony's character gets a bit of a shock because you can see he's a bit pleased with himself. I don't know. He's really perfect for this role because if they wanted somebody who was a complete smug tit, I think they got it in this guy because he's got that air of, I've got a big schlong and I want everybody to know about it. Franco, what do you mean you didn't know Patrick Moore was co-presenting this stream? I've seen the rings around your anus. There we go. I've got a 12-inch refractor. So Van Zant's wanting a bit more information out of everybody. He's like, well, what were you doing down there? What, have you brought anything on board? All that kind of malarkey. And there's an instant air of distrust between these two. It's like Nick Van Zant doesn't like Larson, and Larson doesn't like him either, because he's saying he's a treasure hunter. So he's like, you keep an eye on him. We'll figure out what's going off. Meanwhile, Miss Tunney's taking a bit of a shine, and he's took a bit of a shine to her too. And then Lou Diamond Phillips' character's got this really cool, laser scanner thing. And then he picks up this object on board this guy's ship. And as you do, you open it up and you go and have a look out of sheer curiosity. And it's got this thing in it, and it's like he's mesmerized by it. So he calls up Nick Van Zant. He says, I think you need to come and look at this. So he needs to check it out. Meanwhile, Lou Diamond Phillips is putting his hand in it and is kind of hugging it and all kinds of stuff like that. And you see it's emitting some kind of waves, isn't it? So Nick says, whatever you do, don't put your hands in it. You haven't touched it, have you now? And he knows he's been mucking about with it. So they get one of these robots. Now, they've got this robot thing, and I think it's called Flyboy. And it's dressed up like a World War I pilot because A.J. Marley liked all things 20th century. Now, Kayla's got remote control of this thing. And there's an interesting bit about that a little bit later on. How Kayla's controlling that robot does one thing and the robot does it completely the opposite. Just minor details that are just wrong about this film. So they're trying to figure out what this thing is. And he says, I'm a treasure hunter, and it's my treasure and you can't have it. And Nick's like, well, we need to know what it is. You're endangering the ship. He says, look, I wouldn't have brought anything on board if it were completely dangerous. Now they're all getting the gut feeling that this guy's a bit of a dong. So they want to keep a bit of an eye on him, right? So meanwhile, Nick's going to go down to the mining colony on that moon and try and get some fuel because they severely need some fuel. Now there's an interesting plot point, right? It's going to take 11 hours and so many minutes for that dimensional jump to recharge properly, right? Because they've lost a lot of fuel and whatnot. Now, they're gonna crash, in X amount of time. So there's a bit of a time limit, right? There's a certain level of threat, an impending doom. And if they don't get things sorted out, then they're pretty much toast. But now, Kayla, she's wet through with Nick. Oh, yeah, you're going to get me out of this and you're going to get me into you. And Nick's like, yeah, I haven't got any brandy, but you certainly can have the pair. And the interesting bit, the only thing I like about this ship design is that the shuttle is actually inbuilt into the top of the ship. So Spader goes down to this planet and, Carl's like, he keeps saying things like he makes out he's the son of the guy she used to go out with. But no, he's actually the guy who used to go out with her, right? But he's kind of regressed and got younger. But he's like I say, if you saw somebody and you took an instant dislike to them and all you kept thinking about was like punching them, that's the kind of face I'd imagine. So as we say, this moon, because it's a rogue, it's got trapped in the gravitational field of that blue giant. And it's got a companion dwarf star. So that's sucking up material from that blue star, right? So that system's going to go supernova anyway. But then again, there might be something a little bit later on what's going to make it go boom a hell of a lot quicker. So Nick goes down to this mining colony, starts having a bit of a snoop around. Meanwhile, this Carl character, he starts chatting Miss Tunney up, Danica. And he don't have to mess about at all. I don't know whether it's because Lou Diamond Phillips' character had been mucking about with this orb thing. Yeah, typical Franco. Looks like a butt plug, apparently. Oh, there's some classic lines in the chat right now. He wants to achieve re-entry. He's not 007. Franco, it's a school night, my man. Paul Dickinson says the plot seems to be a massive mashup of different genres. It is. You know? You could tell there's not much creativity. You know, the story was originally penned around 1988 and it had been touted all around Hollywood. And nobody was buying it, and then it was optioned by a couple of studios, and then sold on and sold on. Rev says, I'd say Lou Diamond Phillips' character probably tried sitting on it, but that would mean removing his own head first. He probably did. He probably tried it, you know? Franco says, the kind of face you want to hit with a shovel. And I agree with that assessment. He has, hasn't he? He's got just one of those faces. You just sort of want to stove it in for all it's worth. But then again, you know, you've got to sometimes. Interesting news about Friday. Yet again, we'll be doing Just Bad Trek. Interesting news as well. Next week, February, we're doing something a bit different on Just Great Movies. Just Great Movies is going to take a break for a month. We're going to try something a little bit different, and we're going to try and have a bit of fun with it. There's a trailer, ready, willing, and able, and I will play that at the end of the show. I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. It's going to be an absolute pleasure. So anyway, right, is it a space butt plug? Do we know? I don't know. It could be a space butt plug. It might not be. Ah, dear. Just let me type something. There we go. Right. It could be a space butt plug. Franco, I think you're getting your hopes up. But like I say, because Lou Diamond Phillips' characters touched this thing, he seems to have a bit of a link with this guy, and he manages to get Miss Tunney in a compromising position, and yet again, more space nookie. Meanwhile, Kayla's got the ship's AI to do a bit of research on this space butt plug, right? And it turns out it's a ninth dimensional device. Now, if you think about that, it'd burst your head. But it's encased in a three-dimensional shell, right? Now, let that sink in. A ninth dimensional object inside a three-dimensional shell, right? What do you think the problem might be there? I shall tell you what the problem is. According to physics, something with a higher dimension cannot exist inside something with a lower dimension, apparently. Well, you don't have to quote me. I'm only telling you what science is saying. So the science is quite valid. Let me just find it, because I did put it in here. Where is it? I can't find it now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Sweetie, the ship's AI, informs Dr. Evers that the object is a three-dimensional shell encasing a ninth-dimensional encasing ninth-dimensional matter. A lower-dimensional object cannot encase a higher-dimensional object. Now, that's according to bona fide science. So that's a bit of a tit up there on the scientist part. But basically what it turns out to be is it's a bit of a bomb. And if it drops near this star, it'll cause a premature supernova. Meanwhile, Miss Tunney, she's got a wet tuppy, and she finds Lou Diamond Phillips zoning out in front of this space. Are we calling it a butt plug? Is it a butt plug? No? I don't know. I don't know what to call it. But anyway, Lou Diamond Phillips is like, oh, he knows what she's done, but I don't know. It's like he's kind of mentally joined with Carl Larson. Kayla does an examination on him, finds out that he's actually aging backwards and he's getting stronger and his body's evolving because he's been messing around with this space doodle-do. Meanwhile, Carl does a bit of hacking and he gets into the communication system while Nick's down on the planet. And while Nick's down there, he tries killing him, right? So Carl gets on the radio and tells him he's going to leave him down there and he's going to take over his ship and he's going to bugger off and claim the prize money. And he remotes some equipment to try and kill Spader, uses a giant crane to try and kill him. But Spader's like, I'm going to come and get you, Carl. I know exactly where you are. Of course you do. He's on a bloody spaceship. He's not exactly going to go far. And then Danica kind of overhears what's going off and he tries to be all smug and whatnot with her. So she smacks him and says, I really wish you hadn't done that. She made a big hole in the side of his head. So she spits in his face. I really wish you hadn't done that either. Chucks her in an airlock. She's got 99 problems, but she ain't one. Blows her a kiss. Boom. She's out the airlock. Thank you, Paul Dickinson, for the £5 super chat. Knacker away. Yeah, you could win yourself a pot knacker tonight. Yes, we've got pot knackers coming out the wazoo. You could win one. Thank you, Paul Dickinson. You're in the prize draw for a pot knacker. A flavour of your own imagination's choosing. So she gets chucked out and he just heals up. Kayla, she's looking for him. And she's got a laser scalpel in her pocket too. Meanwhile, Lou Diamond Phillips kind of looks like Bobby Ewing from Dallas. And Carl's got really ill intent and he can make his hands spark together. And look at his bone density. He's starting to mutate a little bit because he's been hanging around the space butt plug too much. But now, he's got like electric coming out of his knuckles. Well, she's a ghosty now, Atom Gray. I'm not saying what is said in the chat, but if you're watching this on the replay or the re-rub, you can get a bit of a re-rub of the chat too. Lou Diamond Phillips' character starts with like hitting him with a canister of some variety, and he's like, yeah, good luck with that, mate. Oh yeah, have another go. And he's like, what's the matter, Shaggy? And bloke takes a lick and keeps on ticking. And he knocks Lou Diamond Phillips out and gives him a bit of a Spock's funeral, blows him out the airlock, and he just heads towards this star. Meanwhile, on the bridge, the radio's missing. Where's that gone? Gay Doctor from Star Trek Discovery's like, hang on a minute, there's something going off here. So Kayla, she confronts Carl. Benjamin grabs this like harpoon device. And then Carl's like, you're not going to fire that? Yeah. Oh, bump. There you go. And he's played Luke Littler with him. He's dartboarded him up against the wall. And she's like, run. But look at that. Because he's been injured and his body starts repairing itself using all this funky ninth dimensional energy, he starts mutating a bit more, but she's got this laser scalpel. He's got himself a pew-pew. And there's the D-jump chamber. Look at those pods. They're very important. Without those pods, you're a bit stuffed for getting back home, unless you want to turn into a plate of jelly. Airplane 2. Simon's going to jelly. Blah, 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 blah. So Benjamin turns around. Bump, that guy's there. He fires at him. And he's still stood there. And he looks at his gun. He's like, is this even working? Yeah, it's working all right. But he's got a big massive hole in his frontal lobe. And he repairs himself. And then he starts kicking the hell out of Benji. And Benji locks himself in there. And he says to the ship's computer, because this computer's like in love with him and he's in love with it too. And he's saying, like, evacuate the air out of everywhere except for here. And she says, oh, no, safety protocols, can't do anything about that. And so Carl starts trying to break his way in. And the ship's computer won't help him, but it's bad news for Benjamin because he gets his ass kicked and he's out for the count because he's no longer with us anymore. Ship's computer light looks at him, but what's she going to do about it? Blank his copy of Jimmy White's snooker. Meanwhile, Kayla, I don't know, Angela Bassett, she's like weird hot. She's like not hot, but she's hot kind of thing. I'm still totally blown away that she's the voice on the beginning of Fatboy Slim's Right Here, Right Now, with a bit of audio taken from Strange Days, which we might feature on Just Great Movies sometime in the near future. But just look at Carl mutating even further. He kind of looks a bit Neanderthal, doesn't he? And he's like, oh, I'm going to have you again. I'm going to do this with you. And I'm going to do that. And I'm going to wet my finger and I'm going to stick it in your... So anyway, she grabs hold of a trusty laser scalpel, but he grabs her hand and starts rubbing her face with it. So he's still abusive. Still a nice guy. Nothing's ever changed. But Nick's on his way back because that shuttle he went down in, even though it was completely knackered, there was a little bit underneath it, like a automatic return pod. So Nick's in that, and he's like, "I'm coming for you, Carl," in that Raymond Reddington voice, like the voice of Ultron. "I'm coming for you, Carl." And he's like, "Nick, where have you been, me old mucker?" And there's none of that, because the thing is, the only person who gets under Carl's skin is Nick. You know, they're like foils for each other. Atom Gracer's Strange Days is pretty crazy. It is. Directed by Thingy Bigelow. I can't remember her first name, but the film was part written by James Cameron as a favour to her. So anyway, Carl's getting geared up. She grabs hold of her laser because she's a bit sneaky. But just special effects are really bad on this film in places. There are a few shots that are visually stunning, like around the Blue Giant and stuff like that, and on the planet. But the spaceships and some of the other bits are just let it down. It's like they've spent good money in the right places, and then the rest of it, they just like went to Poundland for the special effects and the computer graphics, it seems. To say there's like a massive AI running this ship, the graphics are crap. But anyway, she laser scalpels him in the eye, so she does a runner for it, and he manages to reconstitute his eye. And she says, "Nick, you better hurry up." So he gets back to the ship. Meanwhile, Carl grabs hold of that harpoon gun thing. So Nick docks with the ship, and Carl's waiting for him. And he fires a harpoon thingy at a spacesuit, pulls it because he's got monster strength, this guy. But it turns out Nick was really inside the other side of the door. He's just shot an empty suit, but now he's got snippy claws on the end of his spacesuit hands. So he's going to try and start slapping Carl around, but Carl's just chucking Spader around something chronic. And there's a good bit where he pulls his helmet off, and he's proper giving Spader a slap round. In part, in places, I think Spader was actually kind of enjoying it. But he's still got those snippy hand things, and he cuts Carl's off and then manages to distract him long enough where he puts him in a locker, pins him up against the wall, and then locks him in and bends the pin bits so he can't get out. So he's Sparko, but not really, because he's still kind of with it. But he's trying his best to get out there, but because his arm's all funky, and it's like trying to magically reconnect, because he's full of these ninth dimensional pieces of matter. So Spader's like, better keep an eye on him, and she's like, "You reckon?" But he manages to get out of there because he uses his new laser punching ability. A bit like one of them cheap action men used to get at Christmas, with the light up hands. So he goes back and grabs his arm, reconnects. Oh yeah, it's all back to normal. But he starts smashing up the dimensional safety units, which the crew will need to get back to Earth. Because without one of these dimensional stabilization units, you're a bit knackered. It's transporter accident waiting to happen. So he starts smashing hell out of everything. And he obviously he's going to leave one pod, isn't he? Oh, thank you, Melvin Deeply. £2 for a pot knacker to knackify and beyond. There we go. You could possibly win a pot knacker. Who knows? If pot knackers are real, you can possibly win one. So anyway, Carl notices that his space thingamajig, it's done a bit of a runner. So he starts going after it. It's like, "You're not going nowhere with that. It's mine. My space butt plug." But it's really Kayla. She's remote controlling Flyboy, that robot. And they get him in that, view observation-y bit, where Spader showed his nasty crack. Now, one of the many errors in this film, when Angela Bassett is doing, she gives him a bit of a gesture shortly, right? So when she does, the hands are opposite on the robot. So anyway, Flyboy gives him back his space doofuma thingamabob. Space dildo. I didn't want to say that, or butt plug, She gives him the finger, but she's actually doing it on the opposite hand when she's controlling it. But Carl's noticed there's something inside his special toy from another dimension. And Spader's like, gotcha. It's bad news for Carl, because Carl's now toast. And that ninth dimensional bomb in three-dimensional casing, right, is going to set off a supernova. Now, the thing is, apparently this supernova is going to do one of two things. It's either going to do a complete genesis on everything. It's going to destroy all the matter it touches. Or it's going to make the matter it touches better in some way. It's not fully elaborated until the end. So Spader gets his kit off. And this is the only time Angela Bassett got naked when there was nobody else about. And she does it from behind. And I noticed she's got saggy parts. Sorry. Yeah, that's probably why she didn't want to get a kit off. But Spader's having a good look. Paul Dickinson says, the actors must have been desperate for the cash to be in this. And I quite agree. You know, these were lean times for certain actors. But the thing is, there's only one pod, and Spader's like, no, you take the pod. And she's like, no, we'll go in together. And he's like, no, we can't do that. But they go in together anyway. So just at the point that the supernova goes off, the ship goes into dimensional jump automatically, right? With mere seconds to spare. So that was the perilous bit of the plot. Not a lot to it, to be fair, if you think about it. But yeah, they went for it anyway. And I kind of get the Viridian 3 type of affair going off here. You know, like in Star Trek Generations. I kind of got that vibe from there. Because this wave hits that planet and just completely rips it apart. Meanwhile, these two are sharing a chamber together and they're doing all kinds of funky The Thing type elements. But guess what happens? Spader's that, like, manly. He knocks her up. I know he'd poked her already, but during this dimensional jump, he's actually knocking her up. And she's up the stick. Yeah? I mean, yeah, fair enough. I know he's done the nasty, but Spader's that much of a virile man. He's knocked her up in hyperspace. So they come out, and it turns out there's been a slight amount of genetic material that's been transferred. Now, if you look, they've like swapped eyes. So they've both got a blue eye each and a brown eye each now, right? But Spader's is on the right. Let's see if I got... No, I didn't. But if you look at the video, on another scene, they've swapped the contact lenses round. So the ship's computer says, we're back home, we're safe, got something to tell you, you're knocked up, you're going to have a girl. And she says, in 51 years, that explosion's going to reach Earth, right? And when it does, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to destroy Earth, or it's going to take humanity to its next evolutionary level. Yeah? Franco says, hyper baby. Nexus wave, says Cartoon Man. Did you mean Genesis wave? Won't they mash up? Oh, Franco says, I thought they would have got mashed up. No such luck, which is a bit of a shame. Closing shot, this ship, just it doesn't show you it actually getting back to Earth. And it's kind of all over the place. The timing, the pacing, everything's just a little bit off about this film. Nothing's ever quite right. And as I mentioned before, that was something else I mentioning, factual errors. In two separate scenes, Penalosa and Lund, and later Van Zandt and Evers, are shown having sex in zero gravity. Now, according to science, this is impossible due to a lack of friction and gravity, and requires, and if you're going to do it in space, it requires a third person to hold them in place. Now, two's company, three's a crowd. Interesting point is, all the test screenings of this were disastrous. Nobody liked the film. I wonder why. There were 4 different endings filmed for this. Now, Walter Hill, who replaced Jeffrey Wright as a director, only had 2 months to prepare and rewrite the script before principal photography was planned to start, as the studio wanted filming completed before an imminent Screen Actors Guild strike was about to start later that year, which was later averted, by the way. However, Hill clashed over his script with the studio, which cut the budget halfway through shooting. Furthermore, due to the special effects house Digital Domain considering a partnership with MGM, production was supposed to get a discount on the special effects, but when the deal fell through, they had to pay for the full spa treatment. I like that. About half of the planned shots had to be scrapped. Hill also disagreed with MGM on their decision to screen his first cut without many of the special effects shots for a test audience, which, as he predicted, was a disaster, and their refusal to allow for additional filming, which had to be done anyway after Hill walked out. In an interview years after the release, Hill said that his version was much darker, had a very different setup, and the ending was much different from the final cut. He also expressed strong dislike for the way the studio ruined the movie, but said that James Spader did a great job in his role. Spader later disowned himself from this. There were so many people tipped to direct this, and they walked away. Jeffrey Wright, who was originally hired as the director, walked away from the project 2 months before the film started production due to creative differences. Apparently, he had an idea about shooting the entire movie in zero gravity, but MGM disagreed. Vincent D'Onofrio, remember him, Private Pile? He was originally cast in the role of Benjamin, but when Wright was fired, D'Onofrio walked out as well, and James Spader was cast in the lead. Jack Shoulder, who directed Nightmare on Elm Street 2, if I remember right, Freddy's Revenge, was then briefly considered to direct, but MGM head Frank Mancuso preferred Walter Hill on Spader's advice, as Hill had written and produced 3 movies in the Alien franchise. Hill accepted, of course, and he was keen on working with Spader and felt that the problems in the script were fixable. Ironically, Hill later walked off the movie completely and was replaced by Shoulder, who was another person tipped to do this film. Like I said before, William Malone originally pitched the film in 1990. He envisioned it as a modestly budget project that would have cost around $5 or $6 million and be like Dead Calm, but in space. Yeah. Like I said before, Lou Diamond Phillips, he walked away from this project so many times, but he eventually was brought on board. And I don't think he was very strong in the role. It's like, well, why is he even there? Oh, dear. Anyway, the original script was about a space expedition that discovers artifacts from an alien civilization, brings them back to Earth. One of the artifacts unleashes an evil force. Which would have been a little bit different. Tommy Malone and producer Ash R. Shah asked H.R. Giger to produce some conceptual art to promote the script. Due to the troubled production, James Spader disowned the film and expressed his regret in participating, citing the film as one of his as the one in his career that people should avoid. Yeah, it's not very good. I mean, like I said before, it's one of those, if there's nothing at all, right, and you're just going through doom scrolling on Netflix and whatnot, this is all right. I mean, it's not too bad. I like it. It's fun in places, but then again, it's the pacing that kind of ruins things, Angela Bassett originally agreed to be nude for the hyperspace tube scene, but later changed her mind, even though everybody else was naked, had a big meltdown about it, then sort of got a bum out at the end. The remote-controlled robot was originally supposed to be a genuine animatronic, but when the film's budget was slashed and the special effects turned out to be more expensive than expected, an actor dressed as an android had to be used. The lower budget also meant that a scene where Van Zandt rescues somebody inside a bubble of zero gravity couldn't be filmed, which is a bit of a shame, really. Overall, it does deserve its 4.7 out of 10 on IMDb. The critics on Rig Tomatoes, however, were a little bit harsh. 11% from the critics and 18% from the popcorn-enjoying moviegoers. It's a 25, You know, if I was to Rotten Tomato it myself, I would give it a 25. The 4.7 on IMDb, that is more than fair. What? Ref says, LDP probably learned the term fridging during filming. He probably learnt quite a few things. What's that? Sorry, the Nexus Wave was the energy ribbon. Yeah, that was from Generations, wasn't it? Yeah, I was thinking, I was thinking like Genesis Wave when, yeah. Anyway, Carty Man also says threesome, but someone just loses out. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, to be fair, isn't it? You know, like I say, lot of issues with this film. It's not going to win any awards, but it will kill some time on a wet and soggy, like Sunday evening when there's absolutely nothing else available. If this is your final resort, you would absolutely enjoy that. Let's catch up with the chat a little bit now. Atom Gray. Hello, Ghosty. Ghosty! The story seems pointlessly complicated. It is. Franco says Rottens would have given a 98 these days. Yeah, probably. How's Star Trek Starfleet Academy doing? Rumor is that Kurtzman's finally been given the push, right, by Paramount. So Secret Hideout and Kurtzman no longer get Star Trek. But hang on a minute. Didn't we have this rumor with Star Trek Discovery, the end of Star Trek Discovery, and at the end of Picard? I think it's a bullshit tactic by Kurtzman to stop people review bombing Starfleet Academy. We're not review bombing Starfleet Academy. You know, if you can't give a genuine appraisal of something, if it's bad, and not be accused of review bombing, then there's something not quite right there. If you've made something and it's not right, and then you blame the consumer for the issue, then you've not done something that the consumer wants. You've produced something for yourself, you know, for you and your little cronies, your little pink pony club and whatnot, you know, and that's a lot wrong with franchises these days. So my theory is, right, Kurtzman's yet again made a sporadic rumor mill to try and quell everybody to stop him review bombing his wonderful program. Holly Hunter is the worst thing to happen to Star Trek. I would sooner have Burnham back than Erica Cartman. I'm going to sit in this chair, and I'm going to be a crazy old white liberal lady, and I'm going to have whoop course on my pajamas. Because that's all she is, you know, respect my authority. That's all you're getting. Atom Gray says, review bombing isn't real. I agree with that assessment. It is not real. Oh, dear. Franco says, I can't to Paul Dickinson. Oh, there we go. The world is so bonkers, Kathleen Kennedy will probably take over Star Trek. And Paul Dickinson says, I can't see her making it any worse. No. I can't imagine that anyway. You know, anybody who went into that job now would only do a better job of it. And I don't understand how Kurtzman can continue to fail upwards all the time. You've got he must be surrounded by sycophants. And they'll go, oh, what do you rank to that then, guys? Oh, marvellous. Marvellous, Alex. No, I've not seen anything better. Patrick Stewart would be moist. There'd be a puddle on the floor. He'd lose containment. No, that's not the case at all. You know, all these so-called big producers, it's all right having all these flashy special effects. It's all right having these big monster budgets. But why don't you hire people who can actually write a fucking script? Why don't you get people in who understand what Star Trek is about? Instead of, you know, you've got all these people that are hanging around modern new Trek online, and they're going, you don't understand it. You know, you can't say that about Star Trek. Star Trek's always been diverse. It's always been liberals. No, it's not. It's had its finger on the pulse, and it's called out topics of the day and stuff like that. But where have you ever seen on the original series? Captain's log, Stardate 69690898. We've gone to the planet Bummatron 7, where everybody's bumming, but we're going to tell you all about it and show people doing rum things on screen. There was never any of that. You know, it's all right for science fiction shows to imply a certain thing, but you don't need it rubbing in your face, penis or otherwise. You don't need any of that. The show there is to tell a story, not to preach to people. This is where all these big franchises have gone wrong over the years. You don't lecture your audience. If we're going to the pictures, right, to see these films, and I'm using like new Star Trek films and new Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, for example, you know, you go to these films and you're getting preached at. You're a terrible person. You're white. You're a terrible person. You've had kids. You're with heterosexuals. You're not right. You should be doing a bum thing. You should be smashing back doors in. There should be none of that. You know, what I do in the privacy of my own home and in my spare time's nobody's business. I don't go out my way to tell people my business. If I was on the other bus, would I tell you? No, I wouldn't. Fair enough, I'm gay, but only on Fridays now. In fact, no, I am not gay. I take that back. I am my own letter. You know, the LGBTQ LMNOP, right? I'm M now. I'm my own sexuality now, M, for monosexual. The former Mrs. Retro, she says I'm a masturbator, so M stands for masturbator. Yeah. So I'm monosexual now, and possibly the first in the world to be 100% monosexual. There we go. So if I want to act around and prance around in frilly underwears, right, that's exactly what I'll do when I go around smashing your back doors in, because everybody's asking me to do Lee Francis impressions now. It were proper bow, I tell thee. But you know what I mean? Your favourite TV show is not a place to be preached at. Did Babylon 5 preach at you? If it did it in a smart way. Star Trek Next Gen, did that do that? Did Voyager do that? DS9? Even Enterprise? You know, if they were getting a point across, they did it in a clever way. Not, oh, you two have got a bit of a sweat on. What have you been doing? Oh, well, we've been in the holodeck. We've been to a gay sauna and we've been bumming and we met a couple of gay Daleks. It's a virtual gay bar on holodeck 69. There you go. There's your Alan Carr impression. Your Mick Jagger was on point, man. I haven't done Mick Jagger. I could do Mick Jagger for you. Don't worry, Furlong. They'll do a review on us in the future. Just great movies. They'll do Free Jack, One Mississippi. There we go. That was a cracking film. I enjoyed doing that solo. I've enjoyed doing this solo, you know. I thought I could condense it all down, get it into 1 hour. Spot on. No problems. So, notes for your diary, right? This coming Friday, we'll be doing episode 4 of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Me, Z, and Ista will be having a good laugh about that, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm feeling very vitriolic and full of bile already, and I might just get one. Remember them gonks with the pink hair? I might get one of those just to put on my my studio desk so I can annoy it, you know? Thinking about the Pink Pony Club, that malarkey. Also, next week, no Just Great Movies. We're going to do something completely different, just like in Monty Python. Just Great Movies is taking a break for the month of February. So, shall I just play you the trailer? You know the theme tune to Just Great Movies. Of course you do, the dun 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 dun. Yeah? Imagine that if it all went a bit skew-whiff. Right? Imagine that with whistles and bells on and a few scary elements. And I want you to look out for something in this trailer. It's a case of if you know, you know, right? Anyway, thank you for tuning in tonight. Like, subscribe, share, and I'll catch you on Friday.